DevOps Shorts, DevOps Shorts, the show to listen to when your DevOps hurts. And even when you're going strong, it's short and sweet, so come along. Hello folks, and welcome to DevOps Shorts, the show where we invite wonderful human beings to have a lightning fast conversation about devs, ops, and other mythical creatures. The show where each episode only lasts 15 minutes and we're focused on asking only 3 questions. So it's short and sweet. Why? Well, because if there is one thing we know, it's that great delivery comes in small batches. And our guest for tonight is John Willis, the creator of the CAMS acronym, the co-author of the DevOps Handbook, and currently a senior director at RedHat Global Transformation Office. Hello, John. How are you?
Hey, great to be here. Awesome.
And without further ado, let's jump straight into our 3 questions. And the first question for you, John, is why do you love information technology? I have this naive assumption that you probably love what you do, but you're the only person who can really tell me if that's right or wrong. We want to hear.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I mean, I think in this industry we live a privileged life, right? I sort of fell into this sort of knowledge economy work or knowledge, work sort of by accident when I was younger. And I think the thing that's sort of the most interesting to me is, and I tell young kids, every once in a while, there's a couple of universities that I speak at every year. And I say that, the thing about even my success in my career, I've had exits, I've made good money, but it's always when I followed my passion and this sort of simple algorithm, right? If you're not waking up sort of 7.5 days out of every 10 days with a smile on your face, and I don't be cavalier, there are people in this world that don't have these kind of options, but like find another line of work, right? You're never going to have perfect days, right? And there'll always be, no matter where you are, there'll be things that will just sort of drive you, into sort of furious modes. But at the end of the day, you sort of calibrate your life and say, when you wake up in the morning, are you like excited about what you're going to work on that day? And I've been incredibly privileged in, I think, if I look at it, I've been doing this over 40 years, started in 1980. My first job was actually with large IBM mainframes writing assembler. So I didn't know anything about anything. I literally was, some dumb kid who got lucky, moved to Houston, and they gave me a job that said, here, learn how to do this and write code here. So I spent 5 years writing IBM mainframe assembler. We talk about a sort of a baptism, and then I left there and I did my first startup writing IBM mainframe assembler, a mainframe monitor. And then the sort of distributed world started, in the sort of late 80s. So, I wound up sort of falling into that. And then I got into true distributed computing with things like Tivoli. And then the last sort of little less than 15 years have all been about sort of this open source, things that started, early 2000s, cloud, DevOps, all those things. And all just, I try to tell my young kids too, it's just fascinating to learn. Again, it's another further privilege of our industry is that we, even right now, I'm at Red Hat. I'm in the global transformation office, and typically I'd be doing a lot of client visits and things like that. And right now, I'm just doing a ton of research, researching some automated cloud governance, researching what is business continuity. Again, I'm 61 years old and I still feel like a little kid when it comes to this stuff. I just, it's just sort of look for that true north of the things that get you excited. And, I just had a lot of fun.
It's learning what I hear. Yeah, you love to learn and you get to learn, right? Okay, wonderful.
And one little thing that's just since the gong hasn't got off is, Gene Kim calls me a boundary spanner, right? And it's nothing special about that, but I look for other areas, look at your safety, resilience, learning organization, just sort of drawing in from, right now I'm doing sort of research on one of my peers is getting a PhD in transition design. So how does design theory apply to IT? Right? So looking to span these boundaries and sort of collapse them into what we do. That's where you sort of get great learning growth. So yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And we still have 9 seconds left from that. And we go straight to the next one. So the question is, what was your DevOps aha moment? You're one of the co-authors of the DevOps Handbook. You guys coined the aha moment, the DevOps aha moment concept. So I'd love to hear about it firsthand. And go.
Yeah, so Andrew Schaefer, who I now work with at Red Hat as part of our GTO team, he was the founder of Puppet Labs. So I was, before sort of DevOps was really coined, I had been sort of working with Luke Knies a little bit, really following him and trying to see what this whole space, infrastructure as code was all about. And I heard Andrew on a podcast at one point, and I knew him, and he was talking about agile infrastructure and agile operations. And I remember I almost drove the car off the road, because I was like, what is this? And I called him, I said, what is this? This is like, agile for me, being an ops guy, was like, yes, that's cool, but that's not me. But then I've been following the infrastructure as code, and, you store your sort of Puppet manifest and source control. So I was sort of on that road. And when I heard that term, it just lit me up. And I called him, and he said, well, there's some guy over in Europe that's been doing, a bunch of people in Europe, but one in particular, and his name was Patrick Dubois. So I reached out to Patrick, and Patrick said, yeah, we're going to run a conference, a DevOps Day conference in Ghent. And I was like, okay, great. And I was actually working at Canonical at the time. And he said, if Canonical pays your way to come over, I'll go ahead, we'll go ahead and give Canonical a free sponsorship. So I did that. And the aha moment was, I didn't really know what was going on. I thought this agile infrastructure thing was something that I should be around and learn more about. But when I got there were all these brilliant young people, and that were sort of just exploring. I'd been doing sort of Tivoli and large enterprise stuff. It's never really worked. You always felt like at the end of the day, you were sort of taking money and feeling guilty, because, it was just hard to change large infrastructure. And then all of a sudden I'm seeing these configuration management tools, and I'm hearing these young kids talk about, young men, young women talk about all this fascinating new stuff, open source, and it was DevOps, right? And I just, it just sort of rejuvenated me to sort of move on. I was really sort of at that point thinking like, what am I doing in this industry? I'm not really helping anybody. And I went to Ghent, and that first DevOps Days in Ghent, and I came out of there explosive. Like me and Damon Edwards, then like 7 months later, ran the first DevOps Days in the U.S. And to put it in perspective, we're like maybe 40, maybe 50 people in Ghent. There were 300 people in the first DevOps Days. We had it at LinkedIn, and then like we confirmed that explosion. So just as passionate as those 50 people are, now you had 300 people just exploding. And I just saw this thing, and it just felt right. I mean, you felt like, you were sort of, to get too crazy, like a painter during a Renaissance period, and you just ran into, Toulouse-Lautrec or what's his face? I don't know why I'm forgetting the famous artist, but anyway, like you just were there, and like, oh my God, I'm here. I'm here. This is incredible. Yeah. So that was my aha moment. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, and we still have a little bit of time left from this question too. And let's go straight to the third question. Well, first of all, it's great to hear about the aha moment from one of the originators of the term. And the next question is the question that is the closest to my heart, because I like to call myself a software delivery futurist. I like talking about future. It really excites me. And this is your chance to talk about future. We want to hear what you think is next for DevOps and the IT industry in general. You define how far ahead to look. You can talk about what happens tomorrow when we all go out of the lockdown, or you can talk about what happens in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years from now. Go wild. We want to see your...
Sure.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, no, you can imagine. I think I would be thinking a bit about this question. What's interesting is, so last September, Andrew Clay Schaefer, a good friend of mine, calls me and says, "What would you think about coming over to Red Hat with me?" And I've been an entrepreneur startup. I usually stay away from big companies, and I was like, I don't know, Andrew. And he said, "Well, here's what I'm doing. It's sort of an executive sponsored new team that we're going to create to sort of infuse some ideas into Red Hat. And by the way, Kevin Bear and Jay Bloom are coming. And I've been great friends with Jay, and they're sort of just brilliant men. Andrew's a brilliant guy." And I'm like, wow, okay. So we started talking to Red Hat about what we would do. And so sort of the theme that came out is we've been 10 years into this DevOps thing, give or take. And we've done a good job, like, all right, like collectively as a community, all the sort of books, the conferences, all the contributions yourself, all of us. Okay, let's pat ourselves on the back, honestly. But the problem right now is, there's the sort of Red Queen effect, like sort of standing and running in the same place. So the question now is, so when I started sort of talking about DevOps to large enterprises 10 years ago, I would go in and say, there's two clubs. There's the 3% club and the 97% club. Which one do you want to be part of? Right. And, because the 3% club had all these sort of really cool things, CAMs, culture, automation, measurement, sharing. Right. And, but today, I mean, it's sort of the things that were novel, 5 years ago, doing continuous delivery was novel. It's table stakes now. So the question right now in 2020 is, what are we going to do as a community in the next 10 years? And because in 5 years from now, if it's just GitOps, no disrespect, GitOps is awesome, but like we failed as a community. Like we spent too much time patting ourselves on the back, right? So now, and I think this is important, and especially working with Jay Bloom, he's getting his PhD in transition design, and he's got it's from Carnegie Mellon, which is one of the top design schools. So we're really thinking about, like, it's whether we call it DevOps or not, don't really care, right? Like people call it digital transformation, and I'm okay with that too. But the point is, how do we move the needle in the next 10 years? Because again, if we're just sort of talking about CI/CD and GitOps and sort of monitoring with a new fancy term, again, no disrespect to sort of observability or but like you get my point. So the question that we're really thinking about, and like I feel so blessed again and privileged to be with Kevin Bear, who co-authored the Phoenix Project, if you don't know him, Andrew and Jabe Bloom, that we're actually thinking about, like, how do we sort of like think about what it needs, what sort of roadmap or the ways that we need to get people. I'll give you one example. I know I'm running close to the gong, but we've been sort of very close-minded about Dev and Ops. We've been thinking about sort of multiple elements. We call it the 5 elements. You'll see more about this, where it's not just Dev and Ops, it's product management and architecture and leadership. And sort of like a Chinese medicine, if you don't get sort of the balance of all of those. And what have we, in 2020, most enterprise architects and companies are 20 years behind us. Product is a mess in most cases, right? And then leadership's like stuck in the middle of this grid. And so we're really, that's one tool we're trying to think about, is like, how do we sort of walk into an organization and help them sort of not just look at sort of the dev and ops balance, but the balance between architecture. If you don't have if you don't have the architecture in your company,
And you play the
integrating.
gong. That's
All right.
very interesting, John. Thanks. By the way, my wife is a Chinese medicine therapist, and she tells me about the 5 elements all the time.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun to be able to sort of use that as sort of this sort of framing for how you sort of expand. It's about balance theory, and it's about expanding, expanding sort of sense making of an organization.
Okay, and we have a little time for the blitz question.
Okay.
Online conferences or offline ones?
Yeah, I mean, face to face they'll ever beat face to face. Hallway tracks, speaker rooms. I mean, that's where I get all my juice. But given what we got, hey, online conferences are okay.
Have you ever thought of leaving the tech industry? And if yes, then to do what?
Yeah, I mean, before that DevOps Day in Ghent, I mean, honestly, I was really sort of soul searching for, like, is this, I got to this sort of brick wall of, am I really improving anybody's life? But since then, no.
Okay, cool. So you fell in love with IT again. That's
right. I did really.
Finish for the show. Thanks a lot for coming. It was short, sweet, full of content, full of insight, as you.
Yeah, no, cool. I love the format. Pretty awesome. So thanks for inviting me.
Short and sweet. Thank you for listening, and watch out for new episodes of DevOps Shorts.